G'day gang, welcome back to Ragnarok Survival. I'm Stu and today we're going to talk about the survival hierarchy of needs. Before we crack on though, make sure you hit the subscribe button, hit the like button on this, help spread the channel, spread the word. I love putting this information out there, and the more people we can spread it to, the better off we'll be. So, anyone who's ever been in and around wilderness survival type circles before would have probably heard of the rule of threes or the survival hierarchy. And it goes something like this. You can survive 3 hours without shelter in inclement conditions. So that's extreme cold, extreme heat, rain, snow, all those sorts of things. If you don't have anything, if you've got poor clothing or you don't have anything to shelter yourself, say over your head like a tarp, then you're not going to survive very long. Hypothermia or hypothermia can set in within a couple of hours quite easily. So that's where that comes from. So one of your first considerations if you're caught in a wilderness survival situation is shelter. The next one is 3 days without water. So you may have heard the old adage, 3 liters per man per day, is what we were told in the army at least. I assume that also applies for women. Or if you're one of those American people who measures things in really weird ways, apparently it's a gallon per person per day, which is about 3.5 liters per person per day. And that's really the minimum that we can survive on if we're looking at water. Of course, we can survive a little bit longer than that, and it depends on our level of activity and what the temperature is we're operating in. But as a general working rule, 3 liters per person per day is the minimum standard we're going to need for water. And lastly, 3 weeks without food. Usually when I say this and I'm teaching people, quite a few people will throw their hands in the air and go 3 weeks without food, seriously? But yes, you can actually survive for 3 weeks without food. It is possible. Again, this depends on a number of different factors. How much activity that we're putting out or how many calories we're expending is going to determine how long we can actually last without food. But on top of this, I like to put in another 2 ones. So below that 3 hours, I like to put in 3 minutes without air or blood pumping around the body. So this is basic first aid sort of stuff. Essentially, to keep a human body working, we need air going in and out of the lungs and we need blood pumping around the body. 3 minutes without those things happening is going to cause a lot of problems. So firstly, whenever I'm going out into the wilderness, I think about first aid kits as one of my primary things that I want to take out. And then within that first aid kit, things to stop bleeding and things to keep airways going. So it might be CPR type kits, face masks, tourniquets, gauze, all these sorts of things that are going to either stop bleeding or keep air going in and out. And of course, making sure that you're qualified in first aid and that you know how to do CPR. And the last one is a little bit abstract, but I say 3 seconds without situational awareness or self-defense in an emergency situation. And this one really comes from teachings that things like active shooter events or active assailant events. In a high threat environment, not paying attention to your surroundings can be a certain death sentence. Being able to know what's going on around you at all times is going to help you. A lapse in concentration, even for as little as 3 seconds, can mean the difference between you living and dying. So that's why I rank that down the bottom as the fundamental part. You can go 3 seconds in an emergency situation without situational awareness, 3 minutes without some sort of first aid, 3 hours without shelter, 3 days without water, 3 weeks without food. So when I'm packing things like grab bags or emergency survival kits, that's the order of priority that I'm packing. And if I was caught in some sort of survival situation, that's also the order of priority that I'm going to be placing on these certain areas. Whenever I need to pack a pack, whenever I'm packing a survival kit or something like that, I'm thinking about these different levels as the foundation of what I'm going to be taking with me and what I'm going to be concentrating on. Above that, there are other things that we need to think about. So there's things like how we move, our ability to answer back to any challenges, i.e. shoot, and how we communicate with the world around us or people around us. So move, shoot, communicate. And these are all sorts of force multipliers. They're above and beyond just mere survival. Still really excellent things to think about, but they're the next tier up whenever we're thinking about, say, packing a pack. So hopefully that helps you contextualize a little bit about how I think about stepping out into high threat environments and the sort of equipment that I'm going to be taking and the sort of areas that I'm going to be concentrating on. As always, if you've got any thoughts about this, please leave them in the comments below. Again, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share the videos. Help me get the word out there so we can tell this information to more people. Thanks guys, and I'll see you next time. Semper Paratus.